All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, film, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with H, and with me, as always, is my co-host Tavi. Hello, Tavi.
You've forgotten our phrase. We haven't recorded for a little while.
I almost lost it. I don't think anyone will notice, though.
No, but what they might notice is the your audio quality won't be as up to scratch today because you left your mic back in Melbourne.
Whoops, I sure did, and depending on whether or not my brother remembers to bring it to Sydney on his trip here, I might sound like this for a while. But yeah, apologies for my shitty sound quality. I'm sure Risky will fix it though, right? That's what we pay him for.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, we pay him a lot.
Yep.
We've gone back to the realm of audio only again. Because I haven't told you how to work the camera yet, but we're working on some pretty big stuff at the moment. So
yes. Tavi especially has been a bit overworked, being the only one of us that can edit video and audio. So yeah, I guess we'll take a little bit of a break, give Tavi a bit of a breather, and just do an audio only recording.
Yes, you gave me a breather by giving us this suggestion to do.
Blame Black. This is direct from our biggest fan, Black Binda. So he got in touch with us through Instagram, which is great. I invite everyone that's following us to get in touch with us. We're always up for a chat about this kind of stuff. Give us some suggestions on stuff that you'd like to hear us talk about. But yeah, his suggestion was along the lines of, you guys should watch Miss Marvel because it's better than The Eternals. And I would like to hear what you think about Miss Marvel.
At first, actually, I saw the message, and yeah, thanks, Zach, for the suggestion. But you told me about it doing Miss Marvel, and I said no at first.
I really had to twist his arm for this one. Like, you're welcome.
You were so adamant to do this. I think through our conversations over the weeks, you were just like, "Yeah, should we do Miss Marvel?" Yep. I don't know. We could do Miss Marvel, and I was like, "Yeah, nah." Like, I already don't watch Marvel TV shows.
Yeah.
And I was going to be damned if I was going to do this one first. I was just like, it didn't look like it was for me.
Well,
it definitely is not for me.
Potentially for newer listeners of our show. Yeah, Tavi is admittedly not the biggest MCU fan. I mean, you like Marvel stuff, like Spider-Verse is something that you like.
Yeah. I think I like a couple of the films here and there.
Sure. But it's like the MCU stuff that is a bit repetitive for you, right?
It's weird. I think I still even remember watching Iron Man 1 in the cinemas back in 2008 and also being underwhelmed by Iron Man, because I remember everyone's like, this is like the best movie I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh, wow, I better go watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, it's all right.
It's all right. You felt the same way about MCU properties ever since. Yeah, it's all right. Like, you don't hate it, but it's like just not, it's not hitting home for you. You definitely don't have the same enthusiasm for it as other people, myself included. Like, I really enjoy a lot of the MCU stuff. Possibly not much of the recent stuff, but certainly I liked the first Iron Man movie and a lot of the movies since then. I cheered with everybody when Captain America got Mjolnir and started swinging it around. That was great.
It was all right.
I guess.
But anyway, we're sort of getting sidetracked.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we've been watching Marvel stuff for ages, and our opinion, well, Tavi's opinion on him has not really changed ever since he said, that was okay after walking out of Iron Man. Me, I started, I'm like a lot of the audience, I think, starting to get a bit fatigued with it, but still giving it a shot, which brings us to this TV series, Miss Marvel. So before this, you hadn't watched any MCU TV stuff, right?
No, zero interest.
Okay.
I was just like, I don't want to watch an elongated lull.
Yeah, I mean,
so I was like,
a lot of this latest phase, Marvel Phase 4, is based around the TV properties. So, I mean, you've jumped into the movies here and there. You watched Shang-Chi and Eternals. And
I've obviously Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, there you go. Spider-Man, No Way Home.
And you kind of like, you miss stuff, but you just pick it up. I guess, because I just know that the series existed. Like with Wanda, I'm like, oh, she probably did something bad, so she's bad.
Yeah, okay. I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have watched all the TV stuff in order to understand what's happening in the MCU at any given time. I guess that's good design, but like at the same time, it's like, why bother watching these TV shows? Which I guess we'll get into during the course of this episode. I guess this episode where we're talking about Miss Marvel is probably going to involve some spoilers of the TV show.
Yeah, probably.
So if you haven't watched it and you do feel like watching this TV show, go ahead and watch it before coming back to this. But yeah,
or you can probably save yourself 5 hours and just listen to this.
Just listen to this, and you'll probably get a good handle of the situation. Miss Marvel, I guess I've talked to you a little bit about this show and how we felt about watching it. Maybe we should start with, how did you watch this show? Did you watch it like in one big chunk, or
when you forced me to watch it, I just watched it in a chunk in a couple of days, because I kind of just saw it as work. So it's like, when you wake up at like 9 in the morning and or 8 in the morning, you do your routine, you dedicate this many hours in the day to work. So for me, that would be like editing or writing, that kind of thing. And then after 5, it's like, you relax. So I slotted it into work hours. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to drink a lot of tea because it's cold. So I'm going to sit here and just watch Miss Marvel. And honestly, the start of it, it's okay. It's not usually my style of film or entertainment. It's very like young adult, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is set around a group of high school kids, right?
Yeah.
So...
But the first couple of episodes felt more like a Spider-Man story,
sure,
which I don't mind. I think the superhero mode works well with maybe kids or teenagers being the protagonist, because it's like the people that most want to be a superhero are like, teenagers or kids, right? So telling that story, I think it's very relatable.
Sure. And I like the fact that she's like a Captain Marvel fangirl as well.
Yeah. I don't particularly like Captain Marvel or really any of the superheroes, but I was just like, it's cool to just kind of see this character, in their world. But in TV format, and it kind of drags on a little bit too much. Like, I'm like, all right, I get you're a teenager now. Like something has to happen,
Well, I guess we'll come back to that, but I just want to talk about the characters in this show a little bit. So we have the protagonist is
Kamala Khan,
who later becomes Miss Marvel. So obviously adapted from a Marvel comic character. Going into the show, did you know anything about Miss Marvel, the comic book character?
I only know about Miss Marvel from the failed Square Enix game, because you play as her. That's my first glimpse of her.
There was a failed Square Enix game?
Yeah, it was like one of those live service MMO beat 'em up games.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, Miss Marvel was the protagonist.
Okay.
And I think that's led to one of the failures of that game, is because Miss Marvel is one of the least popular characters in the MCU.
I think she's got a fan base among comic book readers. But like no one knows who she is. None of the mainstream population, I feel like, really know who she is and what she's about. Like they might have seen like she's got big stretchy hands or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think her powers are a bit stupid, like her comic book powers originally. But they did say that her powers in the TV show are kind of an improvement because it's not as silly.
Sure. I mean, I think it's pretty well adapted to suit the current MCU environment. Like, especially if they're going to put in someone like Mr. Fantastic, you can't just put in another stretchy person, I guess.
Isn't he dead though?
Well, I mean that form of Mr. Fantastic is dead, but multiverse shit and whatever.
That's true.
But what do you think about Kamala Khan as a character? Like Miss Marvel aside.
I mean, I don't mind her character. There's some honestly, I dare say that there's some pretty relatable stuff. Like the bulk or the core of her character is her, identity as a Pakistani American Muslim. So it does give an insight into that world, which is also, I guess, part of the South Asia continent. So that's how you manage to shoehorn this particular
it's on theme. Don't even worry about it, Tavi. It's on theme.
But like there's a very particular scene where it's like, oh yeah, I've experienced that. It's like when she's asking her parents to go to AvengerCon. Like I've definitely had to do that. It was like, oh yeah, I wanted to go to like a music concert kind of thing. And even what was that fest? Mani Fest back in the day?
The anime convention that was set at Melbourne University.
Because I think I was like underage or something. I was like 16, and you had to, if you were under 18, you had to have a guardian. I think you were my guardian.
Yeah, I was being 2 or 3 years your senior. That allowed me to be your guardian. We didn't need to get your dad dressed up as the Hulk to join us.
No, we didn't need my dad to get dressed up as the Hulk. And unlike Kamala's parents, my parents did actually let me go.
Yeah, but that is definitely something that your parents might have done.
I don't think my dad would have dressed up as the Hulk.
Oh yeah, I mean they're probably too lazy to go to those extremes, but yeah, they definitely would have given you some pushback when it comes to like doing that kind of thing, right? I think that was very relatable. Probably not just to us, but like many people of like that age. Maybe
not if you're rich and white.
Yeah, maybe not if you're Aussie. Like I feel like Aussie kids just get to do whatever they want. Yeah, but you remember going to like
punch currents with your parents.
Remember going to your primary school, your Aussie friend's house for the first time, and they've got like the maddest food. Like they've got like brand name soda. Like in the fridge, and it just blows your mind, like because your parents have just bought nothing but like off-brand stuff.
What blew my mind was like the amount of game consoles all my white friends had.
Yeah, man.
And games.
Yeah.
And like large shelf racks of DVDs.
Yeah, man.
Like I just go there, I'm like, what?
I watched Terminator 2 for the first time at my white friend's house, and like it was just amazing that his parents would let him watch something like that.
I remember I'll mention this one last thing, but I remember watching fucking Predator 2
the best Predator movie.
And I still remember like the bit at the start where the
the Haitians get
dude,
killed.
like, the Haitian guy like grabs a handful of cocaine and just shoves it in his face. I'm like, whoa, what the hell? And then like I was like, wow, like your parents are so cool.
Yeah.
Like, you can watch. But to be fair, I did watch Aliens and Predator.
Yeah.
I think aliens killing people is okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is they don't need to sneak around when it comes to that kind of stuff like we did. And like Kamala Khan had to eventually to sneak out to AvengerCon. I think the family stuff in the show works quite well. Like I think all the characters actually are pretty likable. Like a big strength of this show is that the characters are likable. Like Kamala, her family members, even her friendship circle. I found myself liking like Bruno and Nakia. Maybe not so much her love interest. Forget his name.
No, yeah,
Kamran?
I think the dude that eventually becomes a mutant as well.
Kamran.
Spoilers, but yeah, it's a Kamran.
Kamran, yeah.
But yeah, Kamran. But then there's the other dude later. And
the red bandana guy.
Yeah, I think that's where it kind of starts falling apart.
That's probably one too many love interests.
It becomes too young adult for me. Like, I get that this show is aimed definitely towards like a Zoomer demographic. But it was also like kind of marketed towards like older people as well. But like, I don't really see anyone over the age of like 25 over the age of 20 that can really like connect to this show. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, Lack enjoyed this show.
Old bastard. Yeah, there you go.
So I mean, people generally seem to be enjoying this show. Like I think Miss Marvel does have a pretty maybe not a big fan base, but like a loyal fan base. So and maybe it's because that she's like a pretty unrepresented character. Maybe it's kind of liberating for people to see her being adapted to the small screen in like a pretty charming show at some points. Like it does have its flaws, and I'll get into those flaws specifically. Yeah. But it like the group of characters is certainly charming, I think, and that in itself kind of made me more invested in like the family stuff that was going on, and like the growing pain stuff that what's her name Kamala was going through.
Well, I think it's all that stuff is like, well and true, but it's almost like too much of it. I know that there are some like, themes and lessons that are taught in this show, or like, said by the parents, like, about growing up and like, I guess, finding yourself. But it's Disney, so it's like, I take it with a massive grain of salt because like I think it's just the messages are way too simple in this show. And that's like, I can't really expect more than that because it's a Disney Marvel show that's aimed for kids. But
and also there's a limited time that like, I think you're absolutely right. Like they touch on a lot of things in this show, but they don't really delve into a lot of things in this show. Yeah.
Right? And I know that they're not going to, because it has to be a light watch. And I think my issue with this show is that it's too light. It's not going to build up to anything like super dramatic or, the stakes aren't going to be that high. Especially with some of the,
and we're not even talking about the superhero stuff, right? We're talking about like, the community issues and whatnot. Like, I guess a clear example is when her friend Nakia decides to run for like head of the mosque or whatever. Yeah. Right. And her being like a young woman, that's kind of like a big deal in that community. But then she just kind of does it, she.
It's like, if I'm going to watch films about those kind of issues, I would watch films where I guess the country of origin, has made.
Yeah, you'd want it to at least be the focus, I guess. But like with all the other stuff that's going on in this show, they don't really have time to like get really that into it. So
because I think I like watching those issues, sure, but like they're not necessarily fun watches,
Sure.
So Miss Marvel is not designed to be.
They could be. Like, I feel like
they could, yeah.
If they felt so inclined, they could have done it in a way that was, fun but still tasteful. But it's just like, because they've got to fit all this other superhero shit in it, there's not really that much time for it. But then if that's the case, if you're not really going to like address it in detail, then do you even bother putting it in? Like, is it something that's necessary? If you know what I mean? If you're not really going to give it any time.
Well, I'm very like wary of Disney stuff because we don't talk a lot about that kind of shit in this podcast, but Disney's like the king of virtue signaling, but then when it like comes down to the wire, they can just easily just change it or remove it whenever they want to, because it has to be made for everyone, and unfortunately not everyone likes the same things.
Right? Wasn't there like a recent example, like in I forget one of them?
It was Lightyear, I think. There was I think a LGBTQ like scene, like a kiss.
Yeah.
But I think they removed it for like countries in the Middle East, like
for China as well, probably.
Yeah, for China as well. I think it was Lightyear, or I think they just flat out didn't show it there. But I definitely know there was something. I think it was Doctor Strange. Yeah, they just got rid of that scene.
Yeah, and Disney has definitely been, guilty of like carefully tailoring those scenes so that they are quite easy to remove if push comes to shove, right?
Yeah, that's the very hypocritical thing about Disney.
Sure.
And just like, but let's not get too much into
I guess what I wanted to kind of like talk about in relation to this series is like, you've often said that like if you want to see a good story that addresses the issues of a certain community or is trying to represent a specific community, then we should be watching something that's not corporately driven, like something from the MCU. But like the people behind making these shows, like the writers and, I guess the actors as well, like if they're coming from like a genuine place, if they themselves want to tell a story that's kind of genuine, like, is there a place for this kind of like this, I guess, Marvel Studio and Disney's brand of representation? Like, is it a bad thing, I guess, for Marvel to be, virtue signaling, I guess, if you want to call it that?
I think like it's 50-50 because like at the end of the day, it does give people who want to tell these kind of stories, it gives them jobs, and to like much of the mainstream, it does give them a glimpse into a culture that exists within the society. But like, I think whenever I watch something from a corporation or a conglomerate, especially one as much as Disney that likes to water things down, I usually have a kind of negative reaction because like I would probably say when I ever see like a Disney representation or trying to attempt representation, it's usually just window dressing, I think. Because at the end of the day, as soon as like representation is not a trend, like would be kicked to the curb in an instant, And I feel that like, and I know there are people out there who genuinely do care. And I was talking to you before, like about Brad Pitt, who had his Plan B studio and they made Minari.
Yeah, right.
And the people behind Pachinko, they put a lot of their faith into a project that was probably, those projects were probably not that successful, but like they're good stories. And it feels authentic. Whereas I think something coming from Disney, it just feels like the stories might be genuine, but I always feel like there's some executive who's like, can you make this aspect of it more noticeable? Like I felt that like watching Turning Red, maybe.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel it watching Miss Marvel.
Sure.
Like it's a bit too much, I think, in this show as well. Though, like, you know, for people who have come from that culture, maybe it is truer to them. But like, yeah, I think it was probably just too much, and maybe showing off a little bit. Like, look, you know, again, virtuous thing, like, oh, they like kind of want a pat on the back for it.
Yeah,
it's like, you know,
okay, yeah, because it's put in the forefront. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, like, I guess because when this character was originally created, I guess it was in an attempt to, you know, give this community some kind of heroic character in Marvel Comics, which I think a lot of characters kind of get created because of that, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And I guess for myself as well, like, to be honest, I didn't know that much about like the partition of India and like what was going on there. And like when this show started talking about it, I was like, oh, what are they talking about here? And I actually took the time to like look stuff up about it. And yeah, I mean, that in itself is kind of like a pretty powerful thing for a show like this to achieve, is like, you know, spreading awareness of that part of history in that part of the world. So yeah, I don't know, like maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing for corporations to kind of try their hand at like representation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather just watch other stuff that delves into it better.
But like if you're talking about reaching the mainstream, like reaching a mainstream audience, it's a pretty powerful platform, like these MCU films. They reach a lot of people. So using that massive platform to you know, do something other than entertain, maybe even to educate, you know, maybe it's not a bad thing.
Wasn't this the lowest rated Marvel TV show or property like ever, like in terms of ratings, like people who watched it?
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I don't know. It was weirdly marketed for one thing. It came out at the same time as Obi-Wan, which it's a really weird move. Like, I think it came out like while Obi-Wan was still wrapping up. So like I didn't even realize that it had come out for a while, like until I finished watching Obi-Wan. I was like, oh yeah, Miss Marvel's out, and then I watched 3 episodes of it. But yeah, maybe it's Marvel fatigue as well. Maybe it's also because Miss Marvel doesn't really have like a big fan base to build on. But yeah, maybe we should get back to the show itself.
We really haven't talked much about the show.
So for me, the high points were the first few episodes for sure. I think the strongest of them were the like, I like the little animations that they did like in the first few episodes, you know, when she's like planning to sneak out to AvengerCon, and like it's kind of like plays out like an Edgar Wright planning a heist situation, but it's got like these little illustrations. I thought those were cool. I would have liked to see those animations like continue throughout the series, but they kind of dropped off.
I think they like lost their budget. And like, yeah, it is very Edgar Wright, which is a shame because Edgar Wright doesn't make as much money as the Marvel stuff, and people are basically stealing his shit, but that's all right.
That's all right.
And then, you know, I honestly don't really have a high point for this show. I think it was just
the end of it just being finished.
It was just it was just kind of a lull. Like, my biggest issue, I might have said this in another Marvel episode that we did, which I think do too much of, in my opinion. But there's usually this period where nothing happens, and it's strange because I watch, like, you know, pretty slow movies, but in a Marvel film, it just kind of doesn't make sense to keep me that bored for that long.
The pacing is really bad in this show.
And so with Miss Marvel, like, I liked the first couple of episodes, but nothing happens. And they kind of introduce, like, all this stuff that I don't really care about, even if the characters are kind of likable. Like, I don't care about the wedding or, you know, that kind of thing. I didn't really care about, what was her friend's name? The one who wants to become the leader. Yeah. Her plight to become the leader of the mosque, because there's so much conflict. She's just like, I got it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool, man. Thanks. Yes.
And then she doesn't really do anything as like you kind of see her doing stuff, but like it's doesn't really take its center stage at any given time. It's just not important in the end of the day.
All the damage control personnel stuff I really didn't care for. Like, they were the worst part of the show.
I think them, like, in general.
And the villains were pretty shit.
The quote unquote villains. I think like this show suffers from, like, what a lot of Marvel stuff suffers from is this, like, really lackluster villains. Like, I guess Damage Control is kind of a villain, and so
they're from, like, the X-Men universes, the ones that make the Sentinels or something, right? Are they? I
don't think that's them. I think.
Or is it just from a Marvel?
I think Damage Control are like an offshoot of Shield or whatever, and they're just in charge of, like, cleaning up after superheroes, I guess. Like, I guess their comic book origins is more of like a comical storyline where they're just like everyday workers that are just cleaning up after superheroes. But, like, I think this iteration of them is just a shady or a government organization that, like,
the lady who controls the main group, I guess, has, like, the weirdest motivate. Like, she has no motivation in the show. Like, she has motivation, but it's not clear. She just kind of...
She just really, like, intense.
Her motivation is she's a bitch.
And,
isn't
like,
that it, really?
maybe she's a racist, but it's only implied. And
I guess it comes into the last episode, really, where it's just like, her character falls apart.
Just goes off the rails and just starts, like, wanting to shoot kids in a high school, which is not cool. But like, for a lot of the show, I was like when they were trying to capture Kamran, I was like, maybe you should kind of turn yourself in at this point, because he can't really control his powers. Like, maybe it's time for, like, the adults to help out, like the government to help out. But but then she just turns full villain. But even the clandestines, they're like, when they introduced to Kamala, they're like, we're on your side. Let's work together. And then Kamala's like, I'm not gonna do, like, she didn't even say she wasn't going to do what they wanted. She just said, I just need a bit of time.
I didn't even remember why it was so dangerous. I think my, like, brain might have shut off.
Well, she was
at
like...
At some point, and it was just like,
they were like, can you help us?
It's dangerous or something, would it have costed her life to open... Because they want to open the portal.
Yeah. No, they were like, we need your help to open the portal because you got a connection with the Bangle or whatever. And then... she was like, okay, I'll do it. But then Bruno was like, it might be a bit dangerous. Let's kind of have a think about it. And then Kamala was like, okay, let's think about it. And then the clandestines were like, all right, let's fucking kill her and then get her to do it. Like, it was such a very fast 180. So I guess, like, that was not great, was it?
Nah, there's a lot of, like, I'm going to do it. Nah, don't do it. Okay. Like, there's a couple of times where Kamala just, like, tells people say, I'm going to do this really evil thing. And then Kamala's like, nah, don't. And then they're like, oh, yeah, right. You know.
I think a problem was the pacing for sure. I think like a lot of streaming shows, they're kind of written like a 3-hour movie or a 4-hour movie where, like, not much happens for the first few episodes, but then a lot of things happen like in the third act.
It's too much,
or the third act, which would be around like the fifth or sixth episode, I guess.
Yeah, definitely a good way of putting it, because I felt like it was too long and then I wouldn't say too short, but rushed.
Yeah.
It's too long, then it's rushed. It's like, kind of bottlenecks itself.
Yeah, and I think that's like a kind of like a writing for streaming situation, like before, I think we touched upon it with the Spriggan episode, like that the episodic format is quite good for television, because in one episode you can tell a story that wraps itself up, like it's a pretty satisfying conclusion by the end of one episode. Like stuff actually happens in the episode, whereas if you're writing like a 3-hour movie, you'll have like episodes where just nothing happens, and like you might be building up to something, but it's like quite painful to actually get to what you're building up to.
It's funny you mentioned Spriggan. I think when I was watching Miss Marvel, it's like I'd rather just be watching Spriggan or Invincible, because they do have like the young adult stuff, but then they have like the extreme violence stuff. But I think it's just things happen, and you're right. You're definitely right about that. Like things are happening in each episode in those series where it's kind of like, nothing really happens until maybe the third episode. And then there's the fight in the wedding, which is just okay. And then,
there's like an episode where it's kind of like a training montage and Kamala's like using her powers and stuff. But yeah, that's like a very like first act of a Spider-Man movie kind of thing. You know? And even,
what do you think about her powers actually on that point?
They're okay. I'm not a huge fan of the effect, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I'm probably in the same boat as you on that.
Maybe the effect is okay, but it kind of comes off as a bit cheap looking in some places. Like, especially when she's like fleeing from damage
when
control.
She's using the platforms. She spams that ability, huh?
I mean, that's probably the best.
The platforms.
I think that's the most fun like aspect of her powers in this show. Like
fleeing is the best part of her powers.
There's a part where like I think it's towards the end where like Kamran and Bruno are like running away from damage control, and Kamala hears about it and she's like, oh, I gotta go help Bruno and Kamran. So she like does that kind of sky running thing like towards them, and like it's kind of like a really heroic moment because it's like, oh, she's using her powers and like she's getting to the scene. But I was like, surely that's slower and more tiring and more conspicuous than just riding your bike or just catching the train, I reckon she would have gotten there faster actually. And with less attention drawn to her. If
she used it to get to the train station. Just and then you're right.
Then they just cut out the section where she was just catching the subway.
Well, her bike was stolen.
I guess that explains why she just didn't ride her bike.
Yeah, so she just ran to the train station and just rode on it.
Because like she's not particularly fit either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I ran from one side of the city to the other side of the city, I'd get hella tired, right?
Yeah, but we're in our 30s and she's a 14-year-old teenager.
Yeah, I guess so.
So yeah, they've got a lot of energy. I remember being 14 and just like
it's so long ago,
running around a lot. Like so, I believe she has the energy. Okay. Whether she actually has the physicality, I mean, like it's. Catching a train would be faster, but obviously, they're not going to show that in the Disney.
And there's that thing as well of like, Kamran has like exactly the same powers as she does, basically, except that he's using it for evil, and it's a slightly different color to hers.
Is he using it for evil? Then?
I mean, he's using it accidentally for evil, right?
Are we kind of just mentioning spoilers. Did we do a spoiler warning?
Yeah, don't worry. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, like, because obviously when he's fighting the cops and he's found out that his mum's dead, and it's kind of like, oh, he's half pissed off, but because it's Disney, we don't actually want him killing anybody. So like when he like punches people, like those motherfuckers are dead. Like if we're gonna bring in physics into it,
he throws a car. He throws a car into a crowd, doesn't he? At one point. But then Kamala stops him. But he would have definitely killed those people.
Yeah, that was just an accident though. But like he's hitting damage control people, and it's just like they're dead. Like I don't care who you are. Like you're dead.
Yeah, you get hit by a big crystal in the face, flinging yourself across the room. It's gonna.
If you can fling a car and you hit that, you're dead.
Yeah,
and it's like I think the biggest problems are honestly in the last episode where it just completely falls apart. Like I felt like if they had ended it on the episode just before, where the clandestines do die, like it felt more conclusive. It felt like, yeah, okay, that's the escalating tension because the clandestines were the main antagonists, but then it's like, okay, now we have to fit in this damage control stuff, and then they've got their like non-lethal, which like varies from not being able to knock over a pile of chairs to blasting walls.
Yeah, fucking blasting through that concrete wall. And I'm like, if I get shot with that, I'm not getting up, man.
You're not getting up. You're dead. You are dead. Phew. I mean, that's basically why Cameron is injured, isn't he? It's because he got shot by a beam.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He got shot like halfway through that series, right? That's how he got captured in the first place.
Yeah. Actually, in that last episode, it's the only one with a trigger warning, right?
Is it? I didn't notice any trigger warnings.
Was there a scene that says, some people might find some moments in this distressing.
Sure, there very well could have been. It's a high school, the high school thing, right?
Yeah, the high school thing, yeah. Because at first I thought it was just, there was like some really stupid article about, I think people were upset about damage control walking into a mosque without taking their shoes off.
Okay.
And like they're saying how it's disrespectful. And yes, it is, because you're not supposed to like these guys. That's the whole point of like not liking. So I thought that message was there because they did it again. I was like, wow, are we really that soft that we need a warning about like not taking your shoes off? It's like, imagine watching any Asian movie where people are walking in houses with shoes.
Or even like standing on a bed with shoes on. No.
I thought that was what the warning was for, but it was the high school stuff. I was watching a YouTube channel where there was speculation that there was reshoots. This isn't confirmed by anything, but like it's speculated that because of what has happened, they redid the high school section as kind of like a Home Alone ripoff because because like when the chick's like non-lethal, and then I guess whether they forgot to film it or not, she obviously gave up on that. Just kill the motherfuckers, because they got ARs and Glocks at the end, like
exploding
non-lethal
drones.
Non-lethal. It's because like that scene, like it didn't even register to me that because it was a high school that it would have been offensive because. It was, I guess it succeeded because it was just so light, but that scene was just so bad because they're basically, they've Home Alone their way against government trained guards.
I mean,
they're shooting baseballs at these guys.
But it doesn't really work, right? Like they still end up getting surrounded by government people.
I think it was just stalling.
And it was pretty light. I like, because they are like a bunch of high school kids, so I guess they might have thought that would work.
These characters are just popping up out of nowhere, And it's like, oh, I used to go to this school too. And I'm just here because I'm here. And then like, we got a team together. Yeah. I was like, okay. It's just like, well, yeah, whatever. and with damage control, are they just like really inept at their job? Because like,
I think that's the implication. Yes.
And like the first part where they capture the clandestines, they like handcuff them, and then like Kamran and Kamala let's just duck through this.
Yeah.
And so, they just like not see them because they weren't in a particularly hidden area. They just like, let's go. And that was the first time when like
Kamala's running
running. Yeah, she just like falls over the car, like the damage control car, and then Cameron comes like from a fair while away and picks them up.
Yeah.
And then just drives off in a car. And then like damage control with their like drones and shit, they're like, oh, we lost her.
Yeah.
I'm like,
what about that black car speeding away, sir?
Did not one person just turn around? Like, what were people doing? It's like, oh, she's jumped over me. That's a drone's job now. It's like, oh well, it's just yeah. And that it's like, I was just like, yeah, whatever. It's just
I guess you just kind of have to roll with it at a point.
Yeah, I think I kind of do. I kind of did just roll with it. Yeah. And honestly, like, surprisingly, this show doesn't do too much of that because I'm watching something that is infinitely worse than this, which we'll save for when that episode comes out.
Yeah.
But I think some people will know what I'm talking about if we release. Just thinking about it now, it's infinite. It's like that, but like tenfold in that show.
I'm looking forward to watching that. I guess this is your revenge for making you watch this show. Is you making me watch that show? yeah.
Okay,
fair enough.
But,
so this show is fine. It's fine. I think it's like
I think it's fine.
It's not the worst thing in the world. I think if we had a stronger connection to this character and maybe the comics that this character is featured in, then maybe we would have enjoyed this more. But I mean, as it stands as its own kind of TV show, I think it's okay.
I mean, I think there are a lot of positives for people, I guess, who are, looking for that representation and who are, growing up and watching, you kind of need these kind of shows that have a fairly easy to digest message because the messages are all positive. It's good. And I think for me, because I'm a fuck up depraved person, I just need something a little bit more edgy. But
you need a bit more barbecue sauce on that shit.
But like I think it's fine. I think it's definitely a very inoffensive show to watch.
I think like
anyone could watch it. Yeah.
My main gripes are with the pacing of it, and that aspect of the storytelling I think was pretty weak. The villains as well. They just needed to be a bit more engaging. But the villains just needed to kill some motherfuckers. just have. They need some teeth. They just need some teeth. They do. They need to be a bit more memorable as well. Like the clandestines were just kind of like a group of people. One guy had a beard, one guy was bald, and he had a whip thing.
So did they have powers at all, or they
had these kind of weapons that they pulled out from somewhere. I think that was their deal. I'm not really sure.
They were immortal, right, or something?
They had been around for a long time. Right? Yeah. I just remember the guy that takes off his belt and it becomes a whip. But then what's holding up his pants, Tavi? What's holding up his pants? Plot hole.
That's his magic powers. He's got pants.
His powers are the pants, not the whip that comes out.
It's pretty good power, man. To have your pants.
Never have to wear a belt. That's pretty good.
Oh, actually, going back a bit, talking about high points, I actually did like all the partition stuff, like that episode.
Oh, like the time jumps?
I find that stuff more interesting. So, like, you're right. Like, it does kind of expose people to, what happened back then. But, like, I'd rather just watch, like, Triple R,
Yeah. It's hard because, like, you don't know... Like, at a certain point, you don't know what's real and what's not. I'm sure, like, the pain of that whole situation is there, but, like, there's not, like, superheroes aren't real.
Oh, yeah,
so.
Right. You're right. There is, like, a time jump thing where, like, she saves her grandmother.
There's some like, time dilation.
I didn't mind that, even though it kind of came out of nowhere, because that's kind of her power, but... it was okay. Like, it was a bit more interesting to watch, like, watching history.
One more thing as well. I quite like the coloring of the show. Like the visual style, I think was quite good. It
is. Yeah, I mean, I had to compare it to Scott Pilgrim again.
Okay.
A much better movie or piece of media. But like. You were talking about like all the drawings and stuff, and as they were planning that stuff, like it looked good, but like a part of me again is just like, is this just Disney showing off with their money? It's like, we can look like we're independent, but this costs millions.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just almost, it's like rubbing salt into the wound of indie filmmakers who are trying to do that kind of stuff. It's like, you wish you had this budget, didn't you?
I mean, we knocked this out in an afternoon. Well then. Anyway, you got anything to say about Miss Marvel before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, let's not do another Marvel property for a while.
For a while. Yeah, I mean, we love you, Lack, and thank you, of course, for the suggestion. We just didn't really enjoy this show that much. It was fine though.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
To be fair, it's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing that I've seen this year,
or even this week, probably.
I've watched a lot of mediocre things recently. Fucking hell.
All right, guys. I think that's it from us then. What did you guys think of Miss Marvel? Are we missing some of the good points of this show? Why did you like it? Why did you dislike it? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram at twoasianblokes if you want to see what we're up to. Thank you as always for listening, and send us some more recommendations, even though we basically just shitted on this recommendation from our good friend Lack for the past 4 minutes. But we appreciate being exposed to things that we probably wouldn't otherwise watch.
I guess.
Even though I have watched all of the Marvel TV shows, but yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know. That sounds like a massive waste of time if you ask me.
Well, you gotta stay in touch, otherwise you won't know what's happening in Phase 4, Tavi. Like we're only halfway through Phase 4 apparently, so excited to see what Marvel's got in store for us. I hope they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
All right, guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and
all right.
see you.
See you later, guys.